All right, welcome to our snow globe, animated snow globe tutorial. So let's get this thing animating. Where are you? 4 fingers to show the display again. And this is what we're going to be creating today. So today is sort of a two-fold tutorial. First, we're going to create the snow globe with the snow inside on the bottom inside, and the trees and the heart with the little snow on top. Next, we'll go in and do the animation of the snowflakes. And that can take however long you want it to take, depending on how many different layers of animation you put in for creating those snowflakes. More layers means that it will look more natural, but it also takes longer. So we'll probably do just a few, but I'll be showing you all of the important steps that you'll want to consider when you are creating your animation to make it look like the snow keeps falling. All right, let's start off. We are in Procreate here, and you want to start with a new, there we go, a new canvas. So up in the top corner, hit your plus, and we can just use a square canvas. I find that that is a nice, easy option for creating, and will ensure that you can keep it all scaling there and also make sure that you have enough layers to work with. All right, so on this right here, first we are going to start with the base of our snow globe. So let's choose a dark blue color. Open up your color swatch here. A dark blue color that is Christmassy, but not up in this bright corner up here. And with your, here we are, inking, go down into your gel pen, and that's a nice monoline weight for what we're going to be using it for, and you're just going to draw a rectangle. Now, when you get to the end of your rectangle, just hold it there so that it will create a quick shape for you here, and you're going to choose to edit the shape, because mine, even though it created a quick shape, it's still a little bit wonky. So if you click on rectangle, it will create a perfect rectangle where this line and this line are equal and parallel, and this line and this line are equal and parallel. Now, it might not be straight on your page, but the way that I do fix that is twofold. First, we are going to set our grid in here so that we can see when things are straight. If you click onto your actions panel up here, choose canvas, and you're going to choose to turn on your drawing guide. Now, this is a lot, and I find that if I have this many lines, I get a little bit thrown between seeing what's a line in the background and seeing what's the shape I'm trying to draw. So instead of that, let's edit our drawing guide. And in here, you want to choose a grid size that's really, really big. I like to make it so that it's either fully filling or almost filling, where you have a little bit of a border if you need to make sure you're not going right to the edge. Otherwise, pull it up all the way, because that will give you a center line vertically and horizontally. Click done on that. And now, how does that help with straightening? Well, here's how it helps. The first step is that you can see obviously that this isn't straight because the bounding box is straight, but the blue line inside is not. So I like to just manually rotate it a little bit and then tap off your selection, tap back on, and now it is pretty straight. It could be a titchity touch straighter, so you can fiddle around with that, but honestly, it's not going to make that much of a difference if it's like -2 off. And then, because we have our center line, we can shift this whole thing over to go right in the center. And you know it's centered if these dots in the center of your bounding box are right on that center line. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. You're just going to try to get it mostly centered. And you'll probably want to shift it down just a little bit so you have lots more space to work in up here, because next we're going to go into drawing our snow globe, the globe part of it itself. Let's just finish up with the bottom here. So looking at our layers, we have that one layer that's the base, and we're going to finish this base off by taking your blue, bring it inside, and fill that guy in there. Now, it's looking a little bit flat, so let's give it a little bit more depth. Often these things don't just go straight down, they have a bit of a curve to them. So we can adjust this by going up into your adjustments, selection up there, and choose warp. And inside warp, let's pull down this middle section a little bit to give that curve in the middle. And we can even warp it out to the side, or if you choose freeform, then you can drag that corner out so that it's not quite as warped, but you still have a gentle curve. Okay, next, because I still think this is a bit pointy, if you press and hold onto your eraser, that will set the brush that we were using to draw with as your eraser. So now you can go in and just erase a little bit off of those corners there. We'll do one and the other. And that will give you a softer look to your base. Okay, for now we're done with the base. Next we're going to go on to drawing the globe, but that needs to be on another layer because we are going to come back and do a bit more dimensional stuff on that base layer, so keep it isolated to itself. I know in animation you want to have everything in one layer, but what we're going to do is we're going to create our entire picture first and then bring those layers together once we're happy with it. So head up into your blue and you want to choose a light blue. I sometimes like keeping this part of the color picker in the same place and then moving up into a lighter color. That way they're related, or I mean, you can shift it just a little bit, but try not to do too much. So now on our new layer, we are going to use that same pen and draw a nice big circle. And that is a wobbly circle, but if you just hold it there, you will get your quick line, quick shape, and it will snap into place for you. Now, it's still not always a perfect circle, so tap on Edit Shape and you'll see it's an ellipse. We instead want a circle. And this will then allow you as well to go in and adjust your points so that you have your circle actually sitting at the base of your, what's this thing called? Base, at the base of your base. You just want it to actually be overlapping so that it's going over those 2 points there. All right, once you have it where you like it, let's fill it with that same color. And it looks a little bit weird to have this much of a curve on the bottom because it is weird. It shouldn't be like that. That base would be holding it. So we're going to cut a little bit of that off. I like to turn the work that I'm working on because I find it a lot easier to pull towards myself than drawing across. So again, we still have that same eraser with the gel pen, and you can just drag a line across. It has a bit of a curve to it, and then if you hold, you'll see it still gives you a curved line, but you can make sure that you go from corner to corner. This one is a little bit off, so if you choose Edit Shape, you can move that so that it goes right into the corner. And again, we'll shift this one. And then once you have that one set, just with your eraser, go in and finish, oh, whoa, that was messy. Finish erasing the rest. This is the maximum size right now for this pen, so that's why it's not just one quick erase, but a little bit more has to be done. So that's starting to look a lot more natural. Now we want to add some dimension to this. So we have our glass on the top. Go into your same blue that you still have, and you're going to shift it, oh, double tap there, whoops. You're going to shift it just a little bit lighter. So not all the way to white, but a little bit lighter. And then head up into your brushes. You want to choose your airbrush and your soft brush up at the top. We're going to add some lightness up in this top corner. So if you have your brush too small, you're gonna still have quite a hard line on your airbrush. Instead, you want to make sure that you increase the size, and that will blow out the edges of the airbrush so you can get a much more natural look. And up in this top corner, oops, I just undid that, wrong thing. Up in this top corner, you want to just take your brush and blend that lightness out. Now we're going to go in with a lighter, so we're closer to white here, a lighter blue, and add some more concentrated lightness right in the middle. Now it's still looking a little messy. That's where our smudge brush is going to come in handy. So press and hold on that, and it will again take your brush that you were using and set it as your smudge. And then you can just go through, increase it, go through and smudge that out so that it looks more natural. The way that my light is hitting on my iPad, it's hard for me to tell exactly what it's looking like. Hopefully there's not too much glare for you as you're watching, but this will give you a little bit of lightness. And of course, if you overdo it, you can always go back to one of your other colors and just color back in. But this is a really important thing. You want to make sure you're only coloring in on your circle layer. So if you go, sorry, wrong one, into your layers and tap select, now you won't be able to color outside of your layer with your brush, but you'll be able to color back in on your globe. And if you touch very, very lightly, you can start to bring some of that color back in. So continue to adjust this until you have a look that you like, where it's a little bit of lightness and you work your way into that lighter spot. But again, that's not going to be our focus. And then one other thing I like to do is I like to add a little bit of light just over in the corner here, because the light would be shining through, oh, that's too much, and would be hitting this side of your globe as well. That's sort of optional. If you feel like that's not looking right, then ignore that part. All right, let's go down and add some depth to the base. So if you just click on the base layer, you're not going to be able to draw on it yet because it's still selecting just the circle. So to get rid of that selection, we can just tap off on our selection tool up there. And instead we're going to select just the blue. So tap on the layer, choose select, and now you'll see that everything is grayed out except the blue. But there's also a little bit here in that light blue that's not grayed out. Well, why is that? And that's actually because your blue layer sits behind the snow globe layer. So that part is being selected, but it's still the blue that's selecting underneath. So we don't need to worry that we're accidentally going to draw on our globe. Let's go back, and you can see in your history, you still have that dark blue there. Tap on your dark blue. And now we want to make it darker. So pull it down a little bit more. And we're still going to use that airbrush tool. Just make sure you have it selected. Yep, the soft brush. And you want to add your dark color over to this side over here. That might be a little bit large for the scale of this. And just underneath the base of your globe. Now I find that this can be hard if you're adding it and you're too zoomed in, because you can't see the way that the depth is building up with that darker color. So go in and you want to be curving around this corner bit, a little bit underneath the globe and a little bit right on the base. If you find that it's not dark enough over on the side, you can always deepen your color and go in with a little bit more over there. And it helps to give you that look of depth. Now another thing you can do is add a bit of lightness over here, but we're actually going to do that at the very end with a different brush. So for now, we're going to leave our globe the way it is, and we're going to start to fill the inside. Again, because we're going to be drawing inside our circle here, you want to select that layer. But we don't want to ruin our globe. So instead of drawing on this same layer, keep it selected and add a new layer. Now your drawing parameters are still going to be that circle, but you're not drawing it on this same layer. You're drawing it on a new one on top. So you don't have to worry if you need to go in and erase something, it won't erase your blue globe circle. All right, let's choose our white. Just drag it up there, and if you want to get perfect white, double tap and it'll go into perfect white, or you might have it inside your color palette here. I just accidentally tapped over to value, so to get back to that, just tap to your disk. And we are going to choose a different brush now. We are going to choose the drawing brush. Where are you, drawing? And we want one that has some texture. So like this Freycinet, yep, that's how we'll say it. You want to tap on this one. I first tried with the Eagle Hawk, but the Eagle Hawk has opacity changes as well. So it was a little bit harder to control. This one has opacity, but the edge is more consistent. And we want our snow to have a bit of change in its color, but not too much in its texture. So you're going to draw some snow just along the bottom. I'm not putting all the pressure on the brush because then it goes completely solid, but you want to, with the very light pressure, color over a few times, and even think of picking up your brush or your pencil as you're drawing, because we want to have areas where it's lighter and areas where it's darker. And I've also built it up on the sides just a little bit. Go all the way to the side, because often when the snow sits, it ends up going up the side of the snow globe as well when it's not falling. You can see that there are some areas where there's still blue showing through, and that's what we want to create some depth as well. And if you don't have enough, press and hold on that eraser button, and you can always go in and erase some areas either with full pressure or decrease your opacity just a little bit and that size, and you can go in and erase some of it a little. You want to have that rough texture. Okay, so next we're going to add in our trees. This is just the base of our snow. We can always go in and add a little bit more afterwards, but we're going to draw some trees on here. So let's do another layer. We still have our selection as that circle there. And you want to go in, and now we'll choose Little Pine. I mean, how fitting. It's the perfect brush for drawing trees. And we're going to choose a green. Now, because everything is so blue toned, if we go all the way over here to a green, it's going to not look very nice with these blue tones that we have. So move over into your blue-green area of your color wheel and choose one of those greens. Again, you're sort of like top right-hand quadrant of your space here. You want to choose a really nice green blue base. And you're now going to start drawing your trees. Now, these trees are going to be drawn from the top down. Take your center point here and start to flare out just little branches going out from the top. My brush is a touch small, so you might want to have it a little bit bigger so it doesn't take too long. And now you're going to continue to build that up, working layer by layer down your tree, and keep some of that space of the blue showing through, because of course trees always have a little bit of space in them. They're not solid. And we're also going to be adding some snow on this. We're going to be adding a darker color. Oh, and even we should be doing our darker color first. I just realized that, but you know what? We will do an adjustment to this layer so that we can do a darker color before we add on the lighter color. After you fill in your layer with your branches, you want to go and start another layer down below. You don't start all the way up from the top, just start from partway up that layer and add those branches in. And of course, different angles, different end types, and there you have one of your trees. Now, like I said, this one should have been darker, but that's why I'm so thankful we have as many adjustments in Procreate as we do. So let's go in and make a few of those adjustments. With that layer still selected, you want to go up into your hue, saturation, and brightness. And we're just going to choose layer. And here I want this darker. It's too bright. It should have been a darker green. So I'm going to make the hue a little bit bluer and then bring the brightness down. And that gives a really nice color for this tree, the undercolor. Even making it a little bit darker, it's still a blue-based green, but it's nice and dark. On top of this, we'll put some of that lighter green back on, and then the snow. So I changed the hue to 53 and the brightness to 37. So if you have drawn something and you think, oh, I really should have done that a different way, don't worry, because you can probably find an adjustment to fix it. Okay, let's do one more tree over on this side. We're going to start, actually, let's finish this tree off first. So we have our dark green, and now we're going to do another layer on top, or you can do it on the same layer if you're feeling confident, and use that lighter green that I had accidentally chosen already, And now you want to go in and draw a few of those branches in towards the ends, because you would have your darker color inside the tree here. So almost tucked up underneath. So you're drawing the ends of your branches in here. And you don't have to draw all of them, just a few little flecks coming out here and there. This also really helps to fill in your tree. And just like everything else, oh, I don't want to go all the way to the edge there, but this helps to give that dimension that we have been achieving with the glass of the snow globe and the base. So that dimension's already really showing up there. Now let's do our snow on it next. Again, one more layer. And the reason that I do multiple layers is that way if you need to go in and erase something, you're not erasing the dark if you're trying to erase some of the snow and then having to redo all of those layers, especially when you do work in steps from the base to the middle value and then to the snow on top. Having them each on their own layers just makes it so much easier for adjusting. All right, so to add the snow on top, we can still use this same brush, or you can always change back into your Freycinet brush. But with your snow, you just want to color in. I like to color the entire top of the tree like it's gotten a very good dusting, and then do patches on the tree. So a little bit over here, the ends of this branch would be covered, maybe a little bit more right here. And you're following those same branches that you drew on, but instead of doing tiny brush strokes, you're actually like piling that snow on there, where you're not just doing tiny brush strokes, you're actually coloring areas in. But still make sure that you're lifting up your pencil every so often so that you have breaks in the snow, and that will help it again to look more natural and still show the depth of the branches, because now you can really see how those two colors layered together looks really nice. All right, so we have done our one tree. We need to do one more tree. We're going to do it right over here. And I mean, you could even do like two trees over here, but just for the sake of time, we're just going to do one more over on this side. Now, that dark green color is not in our color history because, of course, we used this lighter green. So again, you could use that lighter green if you wanted, or press and hold. This is at least is the gesture that I have set. Press and hold on the little rectangle in the middle here, and then drag into that darkest value, and you now have that darkest value to use as its own color rather than having to go in to do the adjustments. So we have our 3 layers here that were this tree. Let's group those, and we need a new layer on top for our next tree. I don't want this one to be the exact same height, so I'll start this little girl, it'll be a girl, a little bit lower, and again, start to build up just with these tiny short strokes, building your way out. Maybe this guy is oh, it was a girl. Maybe this one's a little bit fatter this time, you know, doesn't believe in Christmas diets. Or is that just me? I think that's the worst time of the year to go on a diet. But then again, so is January, or just any time. So let's get all those layers there of the dark. And you can always come back in and add more to it later if you want. Like once you've colored it all in, you might think, oh, well, I want a little bit more of a curl coming off on this side, this one even here. So don't think that every single stroke that you put into your tree right away needs to stay that exact way. Okay, so we have our dark color, a little bit fatter, and we're gonna choose our lighter color, a new layer, and go in on top with this new layer to add some dimension. Make sure that you're not just doing the sides with your new layer color, but that you're also getting branches that are coming out towards the viewer. That's just as important as getting those side ones, because of course a tree is 360, goes all the way around, and that means that those ones are going to be facing you as well. Okay, I feel like it needs some shorter ones right in here before going on to that side. Okay, and now snow, new layer again, white. using that same brush, but we're going to color in that top. The snow has really built up on the top of the tree, and then some clumping snow on those tree branches as we move down the tree. Again, your coloring areas, you're not doing tiny strokes, but do lift up your brush every so often so that you are placing the snow on your branches and still leaving space for those branches to shine through. Okay, so we have our two. This one I notice isn't as rich or as deep with that dark color. So this is where doing multiple layers really comes in handy. You can go back, you can add in a little bit more where you feel that it needs a bit more depth. And, well, now I just overdid it. But where you feel it needs a little bit more depth, you can go in and add that in. Or if this green right here, I think it's just a little bit too much, you can go back into your green, use the same brush as you did to add them on, and erase some of those darker lines. And now it looks a little bit more balanced. So we need some sort of focal element inside our globe here. So let's add our heart. Now moving over to a red, but I like to do sort of in between the red and the pink, just to give something that matches nicely with these other colors with their blue tones. If you go too much up towards the orange, then the orange red is really going to clash potentially with some of these other colors that you have. So choose in between the red and the pink, or choose whatever color you want, of course. And let's group these layers, and then we will create a new layer on top, and this one is going to be our heart. Now for this one, we probably don't want to use that tree brush, but we also don't want to use a gel pen brush either, because this has a very natural edge, and we want the element inside to also have sort of a natural edge. So let's look at what we have inside our inking. So that's where we found the gel pen. We have brush pen, ink bleed, marker. These ones might have a little bit too much texture. So let's try this Jasinski, there it is. Ink. I am terrible at phonics. It's been a nightmare actually to help my kids learn to read, because I have the recall ability, but I do not have the phonetic ability. So let's draw a heart right in the middle here, and it does not have to be perfect. I feel like my streamline is down at -20 on that. So let's take a look at the brush. If you tap on your brush, yeah, the streamline on this brush is down at about 10%. If you ever feel like the work that you're doing, it's not as smooth as it should be, or as smooth as you would have with pencil and paper, look in on the brush by tapping on it, and then in the stroke path, you want to increase the streamline. I like having it somewhere in the 70s. Some people like to have it up at 100, but I find that there's a bit too much streamline for me at that point, but you can also test it out on the drawing pad. So down at 0, you get a lot more of those wiggles and wobbles. It's not even fully 0. But then as you pull it up, you get a much smoother curve. So we want a nice smooth curve for drawing a heart. So we've increased that. And now going back, draw your, oh, so much better. Draw your heart right in the middle. And I don't worry about the base too much. We're going to be erasing that so it looks like it's sitting inside the snow. And then you can drag in to fill your heart. Now it's a little large, somewhat overwhelming for the rest of the components, but because it's on its own layer, you can simply choose up here to decrease the size. Now I like the way that the heart looks. So if you choose uniform, it's going to keep the aspect ratio, so the height and the width, and you can place it in there. I like it around there with the size of the trees. I think that it looks like it's sort of nestled inside, and that's the look that I'm going for. So when you get it where you want it, turn off your selection, and we're going to edit this one a little bit because these look so natural and this guy looks like he has just been plunked on. So he needs a few touch-ups. Let's go into our eraser, and we're going to erase a little bit of the bottom of him here. Now you'll remember this Freycinet is what we were using, probably saying that one completely wrong too, but that's okay. That's what we were using for the snow. I have my opacity still set way down, but you can erase a little bit of the heart. And the reason that I like to use the texture is because, of course, if this is sitting in snow, you're going to potentially have a little bit of it peeking through as the snow gets bunched up against it. So having that sort of brush doing the erase will keep that same texture for your snow. And now let's go in and add some shading on this guy here. So inside your layer, we want to select that layer. That way, when we draw our shading on, it won't go anywhere else around. It'll just go inside that layer. Now, if you're feeling confident, you can absolutely do it on the layer. If you're feeling a little nervous, you can always do it above on a new layer. But I'm just, for the purposes of speed here, I'm just going to do it on the same layer. So pull a darker color, just pull it down, don't change this part. And we are going to use that airbrush. So airbrush, soft brush, it might need to be a little bit smaller just because the scale of this guy is smaller. And draw a bit of color away from our light source, which is up over here. And then curve it on the bottom a little bit as well. Now, if you went a touch too much up here like I did, that's no problem. Rather than erasing, go back to the first color we were using and color a little bit more color back in there. You're already starting to see quite a bit of depth with just adding that one other airbrush color, but let's add a little bit of a lighter color as well. And you can add that over on the side where the light would be hitting on both parts of your heart and even a little bit sort of in the center. That really is giving it a much more three-dimensional look. Okay, so we have quite a bit done for our heart. I'm just gonna click on the selection to deselect. So we have our snow globe pretty much set here. Now, once you have yours, how you want it, that's when you can go in and put it together and start to work on your animation. I feel like this little bit right down here makes it look not super natural. So look for any little details that need to be touched up before you move on to your next step. So for instance, here, this part of the blue needs to be colored over. If you press and hold, it will bring you to that layer so that you don't have to look through all of your layers always to figure out what layer something is on. In the history, hopefully you still have the color, and if you don't, press on that square right in between on your toolbar here, and then drag to the point on your canvas that has the similar color, and you can go in and touch these up. And we're on an airbrush tool. That'll actually be really good for touching these little glitches up unless they're on a different layer, which looks like they are. So let's try to isolate those by pressing and holding on them. It's still giving me that blue layer. But I have a feeling, no, it's a sneak attack somewhere. Where are you coming from? I'm just turning off and turning on these different layers to see which one it might be on. And I think that it's living on, well, that was fun. Choose a different eraser, but I think that it's living, oh my goodness. I want to choose one that does not have this sort of explosion. All right, nice soft brush. Just try erasing these guys. I was on 2 of the layers. Okay, and then this I wanted to adjust. You could select that layer as well if you just want to make sure you're only getting it inside the circle, but I think touching it up just quickly with the airbrush is perfectly fine so that we can get on to our animation. So what we need to do now is we need to combine these all as a group. If you are at all nervous or thinking you might want to go back and change it, or thinking really anything that's making you nervous, what I like to do is I save a copy of this simply by going back into the gallery, choosing duplicate, and then going back into your artwork. Because for instance, I just realized we didn't put snow on the heart yet. So that way, if you start your animation and you realize, oh, I should have changed something, you can always go back into the duplicate and sort of pick up from where you left off. So let's put in some snow. Sorry, my brain stopped. Let's put in some snow on top of the heart. So white with the fraisenet, and let's do a new layer so that we don't ruin the heart. Oh, so big. You can color it in on top, but one thing that I do notice is that now this snow looks different than the snow that's on the trees. So instead of that, I'm going to use the brush, the little pine brush that we used for the snow on the trees, and also use that on the heart. So give it a collection up on the top, and then have your snow sort of working down the sides like it actually would if it was falling onto a real object, where there would be little bits going down, but most of it would be right on that flattest point on the very top. There we go. Okay, a little bit of snow, that's great. You might have some collecting in here, but I find that that then sort of takes away from the overall look of the heart. So just to make it still look like a heart, let's not add that. And now we'll go into animation. So if I was working on this anywhere else and not worried about speed, then I would go out and make a new duplicate of this. But for now, we're just going to continue, even though my other copy doesn't have snow, because this is what you're doing next. You're taking all of these layers and you are going to pinch them together so that they're now on one layer, which means that if you wanted to make any adjustments, it suddenly become much harder. But this is what we need to do for animation. So let's move to our animating portion. You're going to select your actions, and inside your canvas, choose Animation Assist. So this will now allow us to start to create frames to animate on top of this. But how do you make it stay on top of this and not make this be an animation? You have to go into your animation bar down here, tap on your snow globe, and choose background, which means that the animation will happen on top of whatever is on this layer. All right, choose add frame and you'll start with your animation frames. Now here we're going to start to add our snowflakes. So we have white, and rather than drawing in every single snowflake, there is a brush that will allow us to create a snowflake. And it's not the light brush, it's the flare. This one here, if you decrease the size and then just tap it, gives you this cute little snowflake. And that's a bit small. So you want to put snowflakes all throughout your piece by tapping. But you want to change the size of your snowflakes, and you can do that simply by increasing the size of the brush. Have a few of them down towards the bottom, and then a few of them also up towards the top. As we animate, we are going to be adding more towards the top as well, so that they are moving through your piece, but also so that it doesn't look like it's ever settling, because that's the part of a real snow globe that, you know, can be annoying, is that it all settles and you have to shake it again. We want ours to be perpetually snowing. So we now have a layer that is just these dots here. And we are going to add our next animation frame where we're going to start to make the dots fall. So you can either add frame down here, or I find the easiest way is just to work up in layers here and duplicate that first one, and it automatically adds it as your next animation layer down here. You want to choose to take your selection tool, and all of them are selected, and you're going to shift it down just a little bit. And I don't like to shift it straight, because snow never falls straight down. It's always a little bit, you know, side to side. So shift it down and to the side a little bit. Now, if we were to animate and have everything always falling the same, it's going to look very, very repetitive. So what I like to do now is go in with your selection tool, where you can select freehand around some of the shapes, and go around and do exactly that. So I think of it as sort of like serpenting around them. Select a few of them, not ones beside one another, and then choose your move selection tool, and you're going to make those fall at a different angle. So those three now are falling at a different angle, and go through and do this a few times so that you are selecting a few of your snowflakes. Choose your move tool and shift them at a different angle, and not even the same angle as the other ones that you did. Also, ones that are heading towards the edge of your snow globe, you definitely want to select those and bring them back into the snow globe. And another place to watch is anything that's on top of the heart, because it will be very obvious. Oops. It will be very obvious if everything on top of the heart's always falling the same. So just shift a few of those as well. Okay. Now we're going to duplicate that top frame again, and then shift the whole thing down a little bit. And it starts to get a bit confusing because you're seeing so many layers. So we can change that in our animation settings. If you choose your settings right now, it has as default onion skin frames all the way up to maximum, which means that you are going to see every single one of these frames that you put in here, and it gets really confusing. I like to bring this down to 1 or 2 as you're doing this, so that you can see one layer before the one you're working on, or 2 layers before the one you're working on. I'm going to go with 2 for now, but I find 1 can also be really, if it gets confusing, go down to 1. All right, so we've shifted that one. Now we have to go through and isolate a few of these to move them at a different angle. Look for ones that seem to be, like these ones were all going the exact same direction, and those are the ones that you want to make sure that you are shifting so that you don't have ones right beside each other that are doing the exact same thing. Oops. So select and shift. These guys, that's probably okay. This one, oh, let's move him over a little bit more because he's getting close to the edge. And this guy right here, ugh, not a new one. This one right here, let's move that one so it's coming more in towards the center of the globe. All right, we have now our next layer, duplicate, and you can see suddenly one of them disappeared, and that's only because we've decreased the onion skin frames. And this is going to fall down a little bit further. Again, this point now, you're just going to go through and do these selections, and it takes a while to go through and do these loops, but it will start to allow you to have some randomization in the way that your snowflakes are falling so that they don't all look the same. And that's what we want to try to avoid, because we want it to look natural. Look towards your edges, see if any of those are getting a bit close towards the edge. And then you want to just continue adding layers and shifting it down. But as you do this, you're going to notice that if you only are looking at that top layer, now suddenly we have no snow coming in up at the top. And we also are probably going to have snow starting to fall off the bottom. We can't see that unless we turn off the background color though. So turn that background color off so that you have gray, because that will allow you to see if some of your snowflakes are falling down below, and those ones we just need to erase. So we're working on this top frame here, shifting some of them over, and I like to do this so that every single time I follow the exact same pattern, where duplicate, shift it down, shift some over. Then we're going to go in and add a few more stars. So I'm looking for my edges. Edge over here. Oh, edge over here. I think that one's starting to fall off. Yep. And as this one gets into the snow, you won't even see it. So you kind of don't have to pay attention to it anymore. But I just like to, again, follow this pattern of approach. It makes it a lot easier. So now we actually want to go in and add a few new stars up towards the top. But if you add a big star that suddenly shows up like that, it's going to be really obvious. So instead, let's make it a little bit smaller and just have a few gentle stars coming in up towards the top. These are new ones that will be falling down. So duplicate that layer, shift it down. We'll go that way. And then again, follow your pattern where you're taking some of them, making them move slightly differently. Try to loop quite a few of them there. That one will fall a little more to the side. And then I want to show you one really important trick. Whoa, not that. For making sure that when this loops as an animation, it doesn't look like, oh, these ones fell, and then it goes back to the beginning. These ones fell. The important thing to look for is where did those very bright stars first start? So your very bright stars are here, 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 and here. And you would have two ideal things. One would be that you work this star all the way down to here so that when it loops, this one continues on. Another thing that you could do though is after you've done a few frames, and I would say try to do about 10, then you have a snowflake that starts from up here and works its way to the location of those super bright stars right there. So we would want to work this guy all the way down to here. And when he gets down there, we'll have had another one just start off up at the top so that it always looks like that one's cycling down. Same with this one, he would work his way down into the snow, and then suddenly we'd have another one that comes in from the top. So it looks like it's always coming down. So if you look at this, you'll see that we would have a ways to go to make it all the way to there. Whew. But if you start to get like dismayed or you think this is going to take forever, what can always be nice is to press play. And you'll start to see your snowflakes falling. And I always find this really encouraging. It's very fast right now. So that can be changed in the settings to decrease the number of frames per second to get that slower snowfall. And this to me makes me think, okay, I gotta go a little bit more to try to get that snowflake closer down to this point. When you stop by tapping on your layers and stop your animation, pay attention to where it has stopped. It won't necessarily have you on the layer that you were at when you went to press play. So you always want to come back up to the top so that you can work from there. All right, I'm going to duplicate that one, shift it down. Again, take a few of them and shift them at a slightly different angle. And really important ones to look for are your brightest or biggest stars, because those are the ones that it's going to be most noticeable if they're all moving the same. And also watch for any of those ones that might be falling off of the edge or falling out of your snow globe entirely, because we have a few of those. So going in, you can just erase those guys. Here, I'll increase the size of the brush as they come off of the bottom. And that's totally fine to erase them because we're replacing them with other ones up at the top. So again, with your flare brush, you're going to want to add in a few more as these ones fall so that it looks like it's always being replaced with snow. And don't just do it right up at the very top here, but up at the top all the way around you want to be replacing. Duplicate, shift it down. And again, we're working our way, especially with the bright ones in the middle, down. Go through, shift some of them slightly so that they're not all falling the same. Especially those bright ones. And if you can, try to loop a few of them in together so that they can all be shifted at the same time to a slightly different position. Look to see if you have to add any more to the top, and if not, then duplicate and shift down. And we're getting much closer with those star snowflakes down to this one disappearing out of the red and this one meeting up in the middle, and even this one hiding in the trees. That's our end goal here. So let's select around a few of these, change the way that they're falling so that it looks like We've got a bit of a more natural fall happening. And look for any that have fallen off and just erase those ones. So this one I can see is not erasing, which means he is on one of our past layers. There we go. So if you have that happen, just toggle through your layers until you, and I like to just clean up the bottom after each layer once I'm done, just to make sure that you, oops, we don't want a layer, we want a duplicate of that one, and shift this guy down. So we're getting pretty close, and this star has escaped, and this one is so close to the trees. Let's shift a few of them. And we also need to be adding in some more falling snowflakes here so that it's not suddenly going to end up with a whole bunch more coming in up at the top. Okay, so with your brush tool, make sure that you're replacing those snowflakes with new ones. And then we'll duplicate that one and shift it down. Ooh, so close. And this one's disappearing. Remember that you don't want to shift straight. Oh, you don't want to shift straight down with all of them. You want some of them to go slightly different than the others. So don't always move straight. Oh, there's a little, gross. There's a little bug crawling on my desk because I just brought these in from outside. Ah, the natural branches, you gotta love it. Okay, so this one has totally disappeared into the tree, which means that we don't have to worry about him anymore, but we are going to replace him because he's gone now. This one is, you know, we're gonna say close enough. So let's turn off the visibility of these other layers. And we can see our original layer and our current layer. It's not too far apart. So we need to, on our current layer, start to add in this star. And that star, actually, or snowflake, we'll just keep, I'm probably gonna keep calling it a star, but that star would have started right up at the top. So making the larger size snowflake up there, that's where he would be coming in. Flip back and see, because of course we have some other ones that would be coming in. So this one would be starting to enter. We'll just erase the part that's outside of the actual snow globe. And that will help to make your loop look more natural. So like this one, not that one. This one right here is pretty bright, so we probably need to bring someone in over here. Come on, this brush. And that will help get your loop. And if you're not sure, then press play. Ah, that's just the two. Bring back the visibility of all of these. There we go. And then press play, and you'll start to see that this one almost looks like it's continuing all the way down. We just need one or two more, I think. All right. Did I shift that one? I think I did. Okay, we're just going to duplicate that. Shift it down and move some of them over. This is part of, like, because there are a few steps that you're needing to do, this is part of why I like to do it. Okay, first duplicate, then shift it down, then take all of them and shift just a few of them this direction, and then go through and do the erasing of any that might be falling off. And taking it step by step like that makes it a lot less confusing. So we're bringing this snowflake down, shift just a few of them over. And there is one thing we want to watch out for, and that's that this snowflake didn't get down too far. Oops, not erase. Because of course, we don't want it to look like it's going down and then hopping back up. So once you feel like you have them pretty well in line, then play. And see that guy right there? He's hopping up again. He goes down and then comes back up. So that sort of thing is what you want to watch out for. So it's tiny things like that that could make it a little bit inconsistent, which just means that we need to take these snowflakes and shift them up so that they haven't fallen as far by the time that it loops around. There's usually a relatively simple fix, but you only want to work, that's much better. You only want to work on one thing at a time. Don't try to fix everything at once. So now that we have our falling snowflakes, and this one looks like it's continuing all the way down the page because that really is where your eye is drawn to, then we're going to add our final touch to give this that beautiful snowy look, and that is a reflection. Now, the reason I leave this to the end is because we're going to do like a bright reflection line right here, and it would be hard to see the snowflakes if we did it right at the beginning. So go back to that layer that is your background layer. Go into your brushes, and now we want to use the either light pen or light brush. Depending on the way that your hand works, one of these will probably work better for you than the other. So I'm going to choose light brush, and with white, oh, the dog is at the door wondering what I'm doing. With your Apple pencil, pull down, and you want to create just a bright flare on that side of your globe. I don't have the opacity all the way up. Move it below halfway to create that bright glare that you would have on a real snow globe. And see, that also will help to make your snowflakes look more natural. We're gonna add a little one down here as well. Just your reflective notes, final reflective bits there. I mean, you could go crazy and add a little bit in the heart too, but because it's inside, I don't think it would get much of that reflection. Most of the light would be bouncing off of the snow globe itself. And then once you have it all done, you can see your beautiful snow globe in action. Of course, you can export this to be able to use it wherever. So going up into your actions, choose share, and here you can either send it out as an animated GIF or an animated MP4, send it to your loved ones. Let's do a GIF. You can change still here your frames per second. So if you want your snowflakes to fall faster or not quite as fast, you can change it here. Either max resolution, so that means that it'll have a larger file size, or web ready, so it has a smaller file size. Choose to export it and then save it wherever you would like so that you can share it. Maybe send it out on Christmas Day as part of a text message to everyone. I'm going to save it to my phone. And now it's there, ready to go. So thank you so much for joining me for this one. I know that it was kind of intense because it was a drawing lesson and then also an animation lesson, but you really can make absolutely gorgeous things with the iPad and the Procreate animation if you just spend a little bit of time with it. I like to curl up with it on my couch while watching a show or something, because then I don't feel like it's wasted time either just watching TV or just playing on my iPad. So I hope that you've really enjoyed this one and that you check out the rest of the DIYs, the 12 DIYs of Christmas series, and make sure that you either subscribe to my Instagram or to YouTube, because on YouTube, I'm going to be doing these live Tuesday lessons every single Tuesday coming up. We're going to have different things that we go through each month where we're doing, things on the iPad. We're doing things with pens and paper. We're going to do composition keys that you need to know and ways to fix your lettering. So join. Oh, and also I'm going to be working once a month through creating a composition from scratch so that you can see the decisions that I make as I go through and create a lettering piece and what needs to be changed and why. Because if you know how to change things, why you're changing things, you're going to make your lettering so much better. So thank you so much. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful Christmas and that you get some time to do some creative things. I'll see you again next time. Bye.